channel about another reaction video. We got 4 horrifying true paranormal stories. Let's check this out.
This story is a bit long.
Alright,
Instead of a singular story from this
turn
one
this up.
person, they described all the other experiences that they've had leading up to their most recent
What the
experience,
fuck is
which
that?
gives us a timeline and a lot more background information. I'll start off with the first paranormal experience I've ever had. I don't remember this, but my mom told me about it when I was in my late teens. My
Okay.
mother and I were staying at my aunt's house during the summer, and I was around 1 year old. My mother and I were in the guest bedroom, and she was trying to sleep, but I was wide awake early in the morning and decided to hop out of bed and play with some toys. She was woken by the sound of a toy electric piano I was playing on the floor near her bedside. She was very tired and asked me to stop making so much noise. I continued playing, and she eventually snatched the keyboard from me to remove the batteries, so that she could give me the keyboard back and I could very quietly keep myself entertained. She then realized that the toy already didn't have any batteries in it, and she became a little freaked out. When she tried to play the piano, it wouldn't work no matter what she did. She then handed me the piano and I began to play it. Being raised Catholic and being seriously freaked the hell out, she screamed, grabbed me and the toy, and ran into my aunt's living room. Waking everyone up with her scream, they all rushed into the living room and asked my mom what was wrong. She then explained to them that the powerless toy shouldn't work, but when I play with it, it works perfectly. My aunt tested the theory by trying to play the piano. Nothing. She then handed me the piano and I started to play it. Everyone in the room was apparently extremely freaked out. My uncle then grabbed the toy, took it into the street, and smashed the shit out of it with a hammer.
Damn.
And, well, that was the end of that one. Skipping ahead to the year I was in 4th grade. We moved from Kentucky to a nice small town in southwestern Illinois. This is a town near where I was originally born and close to where the toy piano story took place. We moved to a much older house than the previous one we lived in. After being there for a few months, I decided to meet our neighbors. The young girl that lived next door explained to me that every person that's lived in the house she lived in has either committed suicide or been murdered. As a young, impressionable kid, I was definitely scared. Later that same day, my stepfather asked me to please get his tools from the basement so he could do some house projects. Now, the basement, as much as I remember...
Nigga, why can't you go get him the fuck? This nigga asking a little kid to go down to the basement to grab some tools.
consisted of a small room with a washer and dryer in it, a small room beside it with a bed and TV in it used as a guest room, and in the corner of the guest room was a small boarded up small closet / room. Some of the boards were falling off the doorway into the completely pitch black corner room. I got the worst feeling being around that enclosing, and sometimes when I went downstairs, the tools would rattle and wiggle on the wall, and I could see somewhat of a black mist coming out of that small room's doorway. I refused to go downstairs after the whole tool rattling thing. A few months later, I stayed up a bit late playing video games. I had a weird dream about my parents fighting and my mom getting hit by a car. I woke up right when the car hit my mom in my dream. I woke up, but not in a panicked state, which usually happens when you have a nightmare. For some crazy reason, my head turned itself to the left to face the hallway in my parents' bedroom's doorway. A golden man who seemed to be from the early pioneer times slowly began to walk past my bedroom doorway.
Nigga, is you hallucinating? What the fuck?
I stared at him, eyes wide, thinking to myself, "You should be freaked the fuck out right now. Why aren't you scared?" For some reason, I felt such at peace while staring at this man walking past my room. Was he an angel or just some kind of protective spirit? I don't know. He locked eyes with me and stopped right in the middle of my doorway, gave me a quick smile and waved his hand with 2 fingers facing the ceiling, kind of like a cowboy. He then turned and walked past my door until he was gone. I don't know what freaked me out more, the fact that I saw a ghost or the fact that I wasn't scared of him when I saw him. About 6 years later, we moved to an old farmhouse back in Kentucky right by my new high school. The house was even older than the one in Illinois and had a creep factor to it that was tenfold of my old house. There was a big creek behind the backyard, and next door was a very nice old man named Frank. A few months living in the house, I would start noticing what felt like breathing on my neck at night and very faint whispers being said in my ear.
Freak
I
ass
would
ghost.
wake up and it would completely stop. Sometimes I would even hear footsteps going up and down the steps to the upstairs bedroom in the attic. One day, I ran into Frank and asked him about my house. My mother pretended to not believe me whenever stuff like this happened because it freaked her out so much. Frank told me that the last couple that lived there noticed weird stuff going on, and one night they just all of a sudden moved out, leaving a lot of their stuff behind, as if they got the shit scared out of them and ran for their lives. He also informed me that he's found tons of old Native American arrowheads and medicine tools in the creek behind my house. He's found a lot of this stuff over the years and believes that this land used to be the home of local Native Americans a very long time ago. Nothing different ever happened in that house until the day we were moving. My mom asked me to take some boxes out to the car while she packed her small things in the bathroom up. As I was bringing a big heavy box out the front door, I noticed what I can only describe as a black cloud with eyes in it floating around the corner of the house. As soon as I noticed it, and it noticed me, it flew very quickly around the corner and out of view. I dropped the box and ran around the corner while yelling for my mom. The cloud was gone and my mom ran outside. I told her what had happened and she once again told me that she didn't believe me and I should quit trying to get attention. I was starting to get a bit fed
Mom, I ain't even gonna lie, bro.
up with the fact that she wouldn't believe me.
Fuck?
She's supposed to protect me, but how can she protect me from something she refused to even look for? Now, let's move ahead to about 2 weeks later. And this is where, and when, shit starts to get crazy. We moved to a house about 15 minutes away, into a newer house in a rough neighborhood. I lived in a circle of houses on a dead-end street. About 2 weeks after settling into the new place, I invited a friend over to stay the night and play some Halo 3 with me on my Xbox 360.
Like, bro, out of all pictures he could have chose, he chose this creepy ass shit right here. Fuck no.
When he got here, he told me he got creeped out by the place, even though it was a brand new house. About 3 hours after we started playing some games online, we heard what sounded like plastic skidding across the tile floor. No one was home but us, so maybe it's a mouse or something. We looked back at the TV and continued playing. About 5 minutes later, we heard the noise again and we both snapped our heads towards the direction of the sound. As soon as we moved our heads into that direction, our vacuum cleaner started rolling by itself towards us down the hallway. My heart sank and we both probably shit ourselves while we stared in complete terror. We heard what sounded like a female laughing playfully. I ran upstairs thinking my mom was home and playing some sort of sick prank. I got to the top of the stairs and ran to her bedroom and flung it open as hard as I could to yell at her. But no one was there. I know I'm not crazy. We both heard and saw what happened. About a month later, I met the boy who lived 2 houses down. His name was Clay, and his friend who lived a street over was named Lewis. These 2 guys quickly became my best friends and still are to this day. I told Clay what happened, and he decided we should call whatever entity was in my house Mrs. Giggles, since she seemed to enjoy laughing so much. He was sort of freaked out when I told him I thought that my house was haunted. He began to inform me that the house between our houses was where they originally wanted to.
It's starting to become a you problem at that point. I'm gonna keep it a buck, cause y'all keep moving from house to house, and some weird shit keep happening every single time. I'm starting to think it's you, nigga. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
But the night that they came to check out the house, they pulled into the driveway before the realtor did and decided to get out and look around. The garage door was opened about 1.5 feet off the ground. When they got out of the car, they could see dark bluish feet run from one side of the garage to the other. So they instead insisted on moving next door instead of the crazy blue feet house. This scared the shit out of me. What if the whole fucking circle of houses is haunted? What if this used to be a graveyard or something? Over the next few months, creepy shit would happen almost every night. I slept in one of the 2 bedrooms on the top floor, and almost every night I would hear running from my sister's room across the hall to my room. I would constantly wake up to what sounds like very heavy and aggressive breathing on my neck and ear. But when I would turn to go look at it,
whatever it is, bro, hey, she on your body, nigga. Like, I ain't gonna lie. that ghost wants some of you, gang. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Heavy breathing on the neck and shit. She giggling. She wants some dick. I'm gonna keep it a
It
buck.
would stop. One night, all of my friends were away at another friend's house for a gaming session, and I was stuck at home. My mom was going out with some friends, and she said she'd be back in a few hours and I could rent a movie on the TV if I wanted, since I'd be home alone for a while. Hours passed and the sun went down. I was sitting on the couch in my small living room by the stairs that went to the top floor. Around 11 p.m., I started getting chills and the room began to freeze. And we all know what that means. I called my mom and asked when she'd be home and told her how freaked out I was getting. She told me I was being paranoid and that everything was okay, but she still wouldn't be home for a while. Another hour passed and I started hearing what they told her how freaked out I was getting. She told me I was being paranoid and that everything was okay.
See, bro, not everybody deserves kids, bro. Every kid deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a kid, bro. Because I ain't gonna lie, if my kid would have called me talking about something, you know what I'm saying, freaking out like that, bro, I ain't gonna lie, nigga, I'm calling off work, you know what I'm saying, I'm clocking out and I'm coming back home, bro, like real shit.
But she still wouldn't be home for a while. Another hour passed and I started hearing what sounds like running upstairs, then laughing overlapped the footsteps. I officially started freaking out. I tried calling my mom and my friends, but my phone had no service. I started having a panic attack and curled into a fetal position on my couch. The laughing grew louder and louder, and all the decorations on the wall began violently slamming against the wall, swinging back and forth over and over again. I put my hands up to my ears and shut my eyes to try and calm down and reject whatever was going on. The plates in the kitchen next to me started falling and breaking on the floor. The couch started to shake. Oh God, am I going to die? I thought. I jumped up and ran towards the kitchen to run out my back door, but as soon as I got to the small circular mirror on the living room wall, everything stopped. And I glanced into the mirror and saw who had been putting me through this hell and giving me a heart attack.
Oh shit.
It was a small, bluish purple and gray girl with hair that was dark and wet and resembled oil. Water dripping off her rotted flesh, she shot me a big nasty smile and started to giggle. By this point, I've pissed all over myself and I'm frozen in fear.
Hey,
the blue girl, Mrs. Giggles, then lets out this horrid scream. Everything in the house hits the walls at the exact same time, making one big, loud, booming thud. I then passed out.
This sounds like something out of a fucking movie.
Mom woke me up when she got home, yelling at me for making such a mess. I tried explaining to her what happened, but she wouldn't have it. She told me she was so tired of these ghost stories and that I needed to grow up. I honestly didn't care I was getting yelled at. I was just so glad that she was home. A few weeks later, she decided that we were going to move the next town over since she got in a big fight with our landlord over some stupid
How many
stuff.
times I gonna move?
I honestly can say that that was the scariest night of my life. After moving, my mom came up to me and apologized for never believing me about the freaky shit that was going on. I got surprised and asked her what happened. She told me that when she was getting the last box in our living room, she heard footsteps running upstairs while she was bending down to grab this stuff. When she looked up, there was a blue girl standing by the kitchen just staring at her. My mom ran out of the house and sped far away from there. Only 2 minor things ever happened after that. The house we moved into next, I saw blue feet that faded into nothing above mid-calf.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all need a fucking exorcist, like real shit. Like, y'all need to get baptized, y'all need everything. Cause it don't make no sense that every time y'all move, some crazy shit happening. Like, it's not the house at this point, it's y'all. Like, y'all got some weird shit going on. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Of the leg. They were walking in my kitchen. I knew it was her trying to get me to react emotionally. I swallowed my fear and stood there with a smile. And then the feet vanished. A few weeks after my wife's grandfather passed away, she told me that she saw a shadow figure in our bedroom, but when I went to investigate, I saw nothing. I decided trying to stay as positive as possible keeps these things away. It's been about 6 years since my last experience, and I'm trying my best to keep that number growing. So let this be somewhat of a lesson. If you're a parent and your child ever gets freaked out and tells you about some shit like this, please, for the love of God, give them the benefit of the doubt. And if anything like this ever happens to you, stand your ground. These things feed off of emotion.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. That shit just gave me chills. I'm gonna keep it a buck, nigga. I got goosebumps. I ain't gonna keep it a buck. I don't know if y'all can see that shit or not. Yeah, y'all can see it. Nigga, I
This
got
happened when I was
goosebumps, nigga.
14.
Like, real
3 years
shit.
prior, we moved into a 4-year-old house in a relatively secure estate. It didn't take long for us to notice that we weren't the only residents. At first, it was small things like doors and windows opening by themselves, weird knocking sounds, etc.
Is that a
Then it
hospital
started
bed?
getting worse. The hurricane lamp in my room burst into flames. Note, the candle had been snuffed. It wasn't even glowing. We had a weird incident where my mom and I heard the dial tone of a cell phone when neither of us had placed a call, which was shortly followed by ghost rain and bizarre dripping in the ceiling. I'd also felt a malevolent presence, seen shadow people, and I'd even been touched by whatever it was, but none of that comes close to what I'm about to share. One
Okay.
night, it was about 10 o'clock. I got into bed after reading my Bible, and I was just dozing
W.
off when a strange
Gotta
thought
read that
penetrated my
Bible. You know what I'm
mind.
saying?
"You're not going to sleep tonight." The
What?
words echoed in my head, and I couldn't explain why I'd had that thought. I brushed it off as me being paranoid or something, rolled onto my side, and turned off the light. It was then that fear gripped my body as another thought, no, not even a thought, another voice popped into my head. "Look at me," it hissed. My heart
Nigga, you think you Randy Orton? The fuck? Nigga hearing voices and shit in his
skipped a
head.
beat and my breath caught because I knew for a fact that that had not been one of my own thoughts, and I had this strange urge to turn to look in the corner on the opposite side of my room. There, in the corner above my door, crouched upside down on the ceiling, was a dark, shadowy humanoid figure. I bolted upright and reached for my lamp switch. Naturally, when light flooded the room, it was gone. I glanced around my room, my heart thundering in my
Cause
chest.
spirits
I
feed off
eventually
darkness.
dismissed it as having been a product of my imagination. I laid back down and turned off the light. That was when the flashes started. I got a flash of my own fearful, still form lying in bed, the angle of which could only be observed from that corner, and I knew something was watching me. My heart felt like it was going to explode as I whispered the Lord's Prayer. I was so scared. I could feel this thing's
Hey, whenever
hatred
you in
towards
a
me.
position like that, just keep repeating the blood of Jesus, bro. They gonna go away. Trust
I
and
could
believe.
physically feel how much it wanted to do me harm. I blinked rapidly and tried to get my breathing under control, but another flash vision came to me and I was observing myself from directly behind me. I nearly screamed when something brushed against my shoulder. I whispered the Lord's Prayer again, but the thing only came back. I heard a loud click like my closet door being unlocked, and I was observing myself from the foot of my bed. Ice-cold fingers gripped my ankle and pulled me down. I
What the
felt tears
hell?
stinging my eyes, and all I could think was that I was going to die. I flailed for the light switch, and I was relieved when my fingers
Why
touched
ain't you
it.
scream
I
out for your
flicked the light
mom?
on, and the malevolent presence seemed to fade a bit. I eventually worked up the courage to get out of my bed and to get my dad and tell him what
Or
happened.
your
It
dad?
was
Yeah.
2 a.m. when all of this happened. My father was a skeptic, and he usually had a logical explanation for everything, but when I told him about the events that transpired in my bedroom just moments before, he believed me. He
Good.
came into my room and prayed. I'm sure he
W
felt it
dad,
too.
man.
I eventually went to sleep, and when I woke up, I had nasty bruises on my ankle. To say I was terrified would be an understatement. Needless to say, after a few years in that house, my father is no longer a skeptic, seeing as we've had countless more scenarios involving some other entity. He himself claims to have had physical encounters with a spirit. My mother also says so. None of us scare easily, but each of us can give you a truly terrifying account of something that's happened in that damn house. Anyways, thank you for listening to my story. I've had it rattling around in my head for a while now. I know it sounds crazy. I thought so too at the time, but I guarantee that it is 100% true.
Wow. That's crazy, bro. Holy shit. Okay, story number 3.
My name is Kat, and this happened to me when I was 17 in 2007. First, I'd like to say that this
God
will sound
damn.
entirely like poorly worded fiction. So,
She probably old
skeptics,
as shit
feel
now.
free to pick it apart, and if you have an explanation for something, I'd love to hear it. Okay, so here's some boring groundwork. It'll be important soon. My grandparents' home was small. It had a front door that they never used, and they favored the door in the garage. The door from the garage consisted of an oak door with windows which opened inward. And to get to the aforementioned door, you had to go up 4 concrete steps and open a glass door which opened outward. They didn't have a dining room, but instead, a round kitchen table near the door to the garage. My grandfather always sat in his lazy boy chair with his legs propped up. The chair faced the television perfectly, but the volume had to be incredibly high due to his difficulty hearing.
How big is that TV?
He was dedicated to always watching wrestling and hockey. I mean, all of hockey. Following his passing, my grandmother had decided to move in with my aunt in Florida. My mother, my sister, and myself moved into the house for upkeep and, free rent. My grandmother had placed what was essentially a shire to my grandfather with many pictures and his urn in the living room. It creeped everyone out a little, but we never moved it, out of respect. After a few weeks of being in the house, things got really weird. I basically lived on my laptop, which I would often use in the middle of the night. I was incredibly quiet as to not wake the others. All of a sudden, my grandpa's chair started rocking. I hopped up, freaked the hell out. Then, simultaneously, the footrest on the chair popped out whilst the TV turned on with a higher volume than any of us had ever set it. And it turned to a hockey game. None of us would have watched that channel. I was spooked to high hell, but I decided that it was late and I'd figure out the things that caused it when I woke up. Even if it was a ghost, it was clearly my grandpa and he wouldn't hurt anything. When I woke up, I told my mother and my sister. We all agreed that it had to be something rational. First, we looked at the mechanics of the chair. Nothing was out of place, nothing was loose, even when we tried to recreate it. Weird. Next, we decided to check the remote, as it was a universal remote and maybe someone else was on the same frequency and TV. The neighborhood was a close-knit neighborhood, so we had no problems checking around. No one had the same TV as us and didn't have any brand similar to our remote. Okay, really freaking weird. We decided that if it was Grandpa, he was kinda just hanging out. The chair and TV thing became normal for us, part of the quirk of the house. Until one day, it got intense. I was sitting at the kitchen table late at night, reading textbooks. I had maybe 4 books out and one that I was reading. These are heavy books, I might add. Suddenly, a huge gust of wind came in with such force that it pushed the wooden doors wide open, while leaving the glass door closed. The wind blew all of my books across the room and sent the hanging lamp into a violently flailing thing. It blew my hair back, but nothing came close to my direction. It was as if the wind straight up avoided me. It was a calm night, still air. We'd locked both the garage exterior doors, then the wooden one, and also locked and wedged the door, so a gust of wind couldn't be the cause. After that, the chair and TV thing calmed down. The chair would only rock slightly and the volume didn't blast when the TV came on. Eventually, we couldn't handle the thought of Grandpa hanging around while there was basically a shrine to him. We put his urn in the closet with a photo of him in one of his favorite shirts. We left one photo in the living room and respectfully stored the other photos. The TV stopped turning on, the chair stopped rocking, and the wind thing only occurred that one time. It just stopped. About a week later, I fell asleep in his chair. I half woke up and felt a warm hand-like feeling stroking my cheek and hair, like my grandfather did when I had night terrors as a child. After that, there was nothing. Nothing at all. Alright, so I don't personally believe in ghosts fully, and I look for any probable reason for the occurrence.
I believe in spirits.
I was born a skeptic of everything. I got it from my father. I tried very hard to rationalize the events and found no reasonable explanation for it, even thinking about it years later. Some might say it was my grandfather's ghost or spirit, while others would just call it bullshit. And that's okay. I'm on the middle of the fence myself, but it's hard to ignore your own in-the-flesh experience. All I do really know is that those events in that house were some of the weirdest, most mind-bending, and terrifying experiences I've ever encountered.
Wow, man. Hey, 4th and final story. Alright, let's see what we got. All 3 have been good so far, bro. You know what I'm saying?
My name is Daniel. I'm 22 years old from South Wales, UK. This all happened 4 years ago when I was 18.
Fuck?
My family and I just moved into a new house overlooking our town on the edge of a mountain. I was moving all my stuff into my room when my cat ran in for some attention. I was
Okay.
too busy to care, so I kind of just tossed him out into the corner of the hallway, and when he landed, he literally lost his shit. He started hissing like crazy, thrashing at thin air, and finally sprinted away with all of his hair puffed up. At the time, I thought nothing of it. For the next 3 months, things were fine. At Christmas, my whole family went to my grandparents for a week, leaving me alone, and that's when shit really got weird. I started feeling like I was constantly being watched, no matter where I was in the house. One day, I had a girl over and we were watching TV when I noticed that the
Oh
Christmas
shit.
tinsel my parents had hung over the photo frames were starting to bend upwards on their own, like someone was pulling it. Once again, I thought nothing of it, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me, until about 5 minutes later when the TV just turned off. Still in denial, I think nothing of it again, but then, no shit, something poked me in the back of the head hard, and I almost jumped through the fucking ceiling. Later that night, the girl I had over left, and as soon as I stepped back into my house, that feeling hit me again. The feeling that I was being watched. The feeling of dread and darkness. I tried to ignore it and went to my room to play some PS3. It worked, and for a
Damn,
few
this was
hours I was
forever ago
actually
then.
okay. I finally went to bed at about 1:30 a.m. and I was
Unless people
laying in
still playing
pitch
PS3
black
to this day,
darkness when I hear
which wouldn't be
scratching at my
surprised, but
door. This isn't unusual as I have 3 cats, so I went to the door and all 3 of my cats are just sitting there. This was weird as shit because, to be honest, they never really came near me as they preferred my sisters. So I let them all in and they all pounce on my bed as I try to doze off again. But I keep noticing that they are all constantly watching something in my room. All 3 cats looked in the same direction, then they'd all look the other way, as if they were looking at something. That uneasy feeling comes back again, and I just lay there slowly getting more and more worried, remembering what had happened hours earlier. I then hear my gaming chair start to spin really slowly, which makes every single hair on my body stand up, and for about 3 minutes, I just lay there hoping this is all just some sort of fucked up dream, and then it stops. Silence. All my cats seem to relax and lie down next to me. I finally lay on my side and start to drift off, but then the most horrifying moment of my life occurred. I'm
what?
getting goosebumps just remembering it. Something whispered my name in my fucking ear. It paralyzed me. I was
The fuck?
frozen with fear and I went cold. About 20 minutes later, I finally plucked up the courage to sprint to my light and turn it on. I spent the night sitting in my bed pretty much crying until the sun came up, which is when I finally got some sleep. I woke up at about midday and went for a bath, still shitting my pants about what had happened the night before. I was relaxing in the bath when that fucking feeling came back, like there were eyes on my back. So I turned to look at the door and there was a head, like somebody was leaning from the side of the door and looking in on me. This time, I screamed. Then whatever this thing was walked into the bathroom. It's hard to explain what it looked like. It's kind of like when you haven't unlocked a character in a game and they're just shaded out. That's what I saw. A full human body that was gray and partially transparent. Anyway, at this point I would have drowned myself if it meant not looking at it. It just looked at me, not moving for about a minute when I had this stupid idea to try and talk to it. I remembered back to a horror movie I watched where a character said something along the lines of, "If you ask a ghost to leave you alone, it will." So I somehow muffled out the words, "I'm sorry, but you're really scaring me. Can you please just leave me alone?" Its head cocked to the side like you do when you're thinking about something, and then it just disappeared. I got out of the
What?
bath and spent the next few days at a
There's no fucking way that works. There's no way. There's no way, gang.
friend's house until my family got back. I told my family what had happened, but they did nothing but mock me for being a pussy and imagining things. I got so much
What? I ain't
ridicule
gonna
for my
lie, that would have
stories that
pissed
I
me off
actually
right then. I'm gonna keep it a buck. They would have had run me my face. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, nigga. If I had to go through some shit like that, and you calling me a pussy, nigga, how about you deal with it and see if you don't be scared or not? Like,
started to
bro,
believe that I had dreamt it all. Anyways, fast forward months later, we moved out and we get a call from the landlord of the old house, and guess what she asks my mother? She
what?
basically asked if we moved out because of the poltergeist. But anyway, I'm just glad to get my story out there.
What the fuck? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Wow. Damn, bro. That's insane. I'm gonna keep it a buck. But hey, man, shit. Y'all let me know what other, you know what I'm saying, horror videos I'm to react to. Without further ado, I'm out.